Mr. Harper, thank you again for the interview. I think just to start with, I think it's something we want to sort of clear up again, the misinformation or misrepresentation by some of the parts of the Jersey media, where you were supposedly saying that there's a corrupt police force in Jersey when you were working here. Could you just elaborate there?
Yes, I mean, I was very disappointed to read that some of the media in Jersey majored in on so-called comments that I made about the States of Jersey Police having a problem with corruption. I made it quite clear during my evidence that it was a historic problem. We're talking about 14 years ago. And I made very clear also that it was a very small minority of officers that were involved in it. And perhaps maybe a totally important aspect of it, which very few of the media in Jersey bothered to pick up on, was the fact that the States of Jersey Police should be very proud that that small number of officers who were exhibiting corrupt behaviour were dealt with totally by officers from the States of Jersey Police itself. We never ever had to turn to outside forces to deal with corruption. It was all carried out in-house, and the force has got a right to feel proud of that, particularly in the environment in which the States of Jersey Police operates. And I think that was an achievement that the media might have highlighted, but most of them chose not to bother.
Yeah, it was unfortunate, and it was. So thanks again. I'm sorry to waste time having to clear up stuff said by the mainstream media all the time over here, but it's a necessity. There was a problem with a particular document that was supplied to the care inquiry from the law officers department that you alleged that it was that it could have been falsified. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, so it all started several months ago. I queried the origins and the date of production of a document which was purported to have been drawn up by the lawyer working on the Attorney General's staff alongside us on the inquiry, Mr. Simon Thomas, who was from 7 Bedford Row in London. And this was supposed to be an almost contemporaneous record of a conversation between him and I when he was in a railway station in England. And this note that was allegedly a record of that conversation made very soon after the conversation. There were a number of things about the note that aroused my suspicion, not least the fact that he seemed to have laid out the note almost exactly in the same order as the complaint I made later that night in respect of a particular case which was being heard at that time. I made a request on the 27th of October last year for the computer fingerprint.
Your request was to the Committee of Inquiry?
Yes, it was. And the request was that they contacted the Attorney General's office and obtained the computer fingerprint of this document so that we could tell when this document was, what date this document originated on. Now, as you may recall, this was the procedure that Graham Power tried to go through, and over the War Cup letter which led to Graham's suspension. But Graham had to go to court to eventually get access to it, and when he did get access to it, it was proved conclusively that the date on the document was fabricated. It had been changed.
I'm not sure if that was the War Cup letter. It was the suspension letters, for definitely the Graham Powell suspension letters. The dates were falsified, but I'm not sure. Yeah. In fact, not that they had been forged, but a date had been entered which was the wrong date. It was actually a date had been entered which was, I think, 2 or 3 days after the true origins of the letter. Yeah.
So the whatever it was, I knew that they had history for fabricating dates on documents, and I was highly suspicious of this document. So I made the request on the 27th of October. I repeated this request a couple of months later, but by the time my evidence came across this week, I still had received absolutely no acknowledgement or anything else from the Attorney General's office, and so we went into my evidence without having that document clarified as I had requested. During the discussion about the document, suddenly, without any warning whatsoever, a further document was handed to me which counsel for the inquiry said should allay my fears about the origins of the document. And once he said that and handed me the document, he then tried to move on very quickly. Now, whether that was intentional or just for the fact that we were in a hurry, I don't know, and I won't speculate. But I immediately noticed that there was something not quite right about the document that I didn't like. But my lawyer, who was sitting behind me, immediately leaned forward to me and whispered to me that, in his opinion, one of the dates on the document, the important date, had actually been either inserted into a blank space or had been inserted after another date had been removed. Now, at that point, as I say, the inquiry advocate was moving on to something else. So I drew him back and I went through what made me suspicious about the document. And at the end of it, there was no comment from the inquiry advocate. He just moved on to the next document.
Yeah.
So it was just totally ignored.
Well, that's just because, to bring it back a little bit there, the original document that you had suspicions on and you asked for a fingerprint on, a digital fingerprint of, it's quite, just so the viewers can understand this, the inquiry were using it as evidence, knowing that there is suspicion of its authenticity.
Yes, absolutely. That was a surprise as well. That was something my lawyer expressed some concern about also. It would appear that despite the fact that knowing we had reservations about it, and despite the fact that they had requested the Attorney General's office to clarify it and not had any reply, they still went ahead and used the document. And then quite happily used a follow-up document and didn't make any comment when I pointed out what were highly suspicious looking markings on the document. And
they didn't bat an eyelid on that, they just moved on.
Just moved on. And for those that were in there, may have noticed it, may not have, but certainly when the transcript of the evidence is posted up, they will see it without a shadow of a doubt. They can see me drawing quite a detailed list of points which made the document suspicious, including the suspected wrong date. And the advocate, after I finished saying, just says, well, let's move on to the next document.